Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this edition with Coffee with Joe. I'm Joe Asumendi, your host, but that's not important. What's really important is the guy I have sitting right here, Dr. Gary Dumais. Gary, nice to see you.
Hi, Joe. Thanks for having me on your show.
Good.
I'm thrilled to be here.
Good. You're president and founder of Select Human Resources.
Yep.
You're a business psychologist.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to get right into this. You tell me what a business psychologist does.
Sure thing. So, again, I'm Dr. Gary Dumais. I'm a business psychologist.
Right.
I'm probably best known for my work with companies in helping them save the cost of a bad hire.
Okay.
Especially if you're talking about important high-level roles, right, like managers, directors, and above. The cost of a bad hire to a company can be hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? I mean, if you're just looking at the recruiting costs and the training costs and all the onboarding and stuff like that, not to mention if the person is in an important role and they make a bad decision,
Right.
I mean, it could literally end the company, right? So I use psychological evaluation techniques like testing, interview methods, sometimes even create a day in the life, like a mock day in the life for an executive to go through so we can see their strengths and weaknesses. And then I make a recommendation about whether they should be hired or not based on a thorough job analysis, right? It's super important to know what it takes to be successful in a job if you're going to be able to evaluate somebody for that particular position. So I mean, basically, it's my job to see if somebody has the right brains and personality, so to speak.
Okay, so you're not fitting a round peg into a square hole. You're making sure that the round peg goes into a round hole.
You got it, right? And we've got special tools as a business psychologist in order to do that. But Joe, that's not primarily why I'm here today. I've got something else that I want to talk about. But at the same time, if any of your viewers do have a company, they're having difficulties with bad hires, or they want to be better at selecting the right candidates for their particular business, please do give me a call. You can reach me at 215-901-4589, or check out my company website online. My company, again, is called Select Human Resources. It's at selecthumanresources.com, right? It's human resources because selecting candidates is a human resource issue.
Good issue.
And I help companies select. So Select Human Resources. That's how people can remember the company.
At the end of our program, I want you to do that all over again too, because I want people to understand how to reach you and who should call you. Okay.
Deal. But I've got the thing that I want to talk about today.
Okay.
It's a big issue. It's an issue affecting everybody. It's a growing issue, and of course, I want to talk about how, as a business psychologist, I can help.
Sure.
Did I build up some suspense? Are you
Yeah,
a little bit of suspense here?
Please do.
So the issue is it's called relational aggression. Sometimes it's referred to as indirect aggression, and even social aggression. So, Joe, when I say that, I mean, have you heard the term before? Do you have a sense
I haven't. Please elaborate.
Okay, so probably the quickest and easiest way for people to get a sense of what relational aggression is about is to think back to middle school or high school. Do you remember the Mean Girls?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so
I dated them.
So you've got a lot of firsthand experience, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so usually when I mention Mean Girls, people kind of readily understand. I think it's a term that became popular maybe back in the early 2000s. There's actually a movie called
It's exactly right.
Yeah, so it's rumors, gossip that's intended to harm somebody. But the important aspect is it's harming somebody through non-physical means.
Okay.
Right. It's through more relationship-oriented means, right? Either manipulating somebody through relationships to do something, or damaging their social standing, or really just destroying their capacity to have relationships with other people. Right? So, Joe, you might be thinking at this point, okay, Gary, why is this such a big problem? Some rumors, some reputational damage. What's the real issue? Let me share with you a real world example.
Okay,
and
please.
You may have heard about this because it's been in the news. just over the past, it really came to the fore last year, but there is a high school in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where 5 mean girls targeted another boy in their class. Did you hear anything
No,
about
I didn't.
this?
Please elaborate on this.
All right, so we know this because these mean girls actually confessed to what they did. And in their confession, one of the girls said, you know what, we just didn't like the boy. We just didn't like the way he looked. We didn't like the way he talked. And so we decided we wanted to get him expelled, right? So this one mean girl came up with some allegations of sexual assault, false allegations of sexual assault. She then coached other girls, other friends, to say similar things, right, and to back each other's stories. And they actually came up with this harassment campaign, right? They rallied other students. So this poor boy who did nothing wrong is getting ridiculed in school. They did things like write on a piece of paper, predator, and tape it to his back, so kids could make fun of him, things like that. So long story short, these girls were successful in, what happened to the boy? He got arrested, right? He was taken out of school in shackles, right? In wrist shackles and ankle shackles. He was put into a juvenile detention center, right? After that, so he was put in jail. Mm-hmm. After that, he was put on house arrest. He wasn't able to leave his home. He had to wear like one of these little ankle monitors.
Really?
Yeah. So he didn't do anything wrong. Just these girls got together to say some bad stuff about him, right? So it completely destroyed his life.
Did they pick him at random, or how did it start?
If you want to take a look online, there's plenty of stories about it. But it really, in the girls' own words, we just didn't like him.
Oh my God, that's incredible.
It shows the power of relational aggression. But there's more. There's even more to this story because. So of course this boy's life was destroyed, not to mention, the cost for the legal fees and all the court appearances that he had to go to. He lost his job, right? The list, he couldn't even play baseball for his school, Joe. I just can't get over just, how encompassing the damage was. And so here's what makes it even worse. When the allegations were proven false, when they confessed, hey, this was false, nothing was done. Nothing punitive was done to these girls. And the school administration, the whole while, was on the girls' side, and even afterwards, they're still doing everything they can to protect these girls who made a false accusation that destroyed a kid's life, right?
Is that the school trying to be a CYA for themselves?
I think so. It's now actually the parents of the boy are now trying to sue the school, the people involved.
Absolutely.
But again, this brings up this important point. It's not even a criminal offense, right? It's like a civil lawsuit at best.
Oh, is it slander?
Yeah, slander, but then you got to prove damage and intent to harm and all these other kinds of things, and there's minors involved. So, but the point that I want to raise here is that relational aggression can be horribly damaging, and on top of that, people get away with it, right? And that's part of the reason why it's a growing issue in today's society, and I'm seeing it become more of an issue in the workplace. And you have to think, Joe, when you compare it to like physical aggression, right? Imagine, God forbid, you're walking down the street, right, and you get mugged, right? Somebody punches you in the eye and takes your wallet, right? So you might be out $50, or whatever else is in your wallet. You got a black eye or whatever, maybe that's going to heal. But the important point is that you're going to get over it. You're going to make that $50 back. You're going to get back on with your life. And now imagine that same guy that mugged you, instead of mugging you, he goes online, right, and he writes some false accusation about you, okay? That causes you to lose your job. That causes you to lose all your friends and family, right? Like all of a sudden you're just condemned. You're not going to get over that. like you would having to replace your wallet. At the same time, if the police catch the guy for mugging, he's going to face perhaps jail time, right? Perhaps a felony. But if you go to the police and say, hey, the same guy, he just destroyed my life with something he said, through relational aggression, the police are going to say, hey, we can't help you. So relational aggression is a huge issue. It's a growing issue. On top of that, there's another layer here. When you take a look at broader societal institutions like news, right, like the news media, the mainstream media, they are engaging in relational aggression each and every day. You can't turn on the TV without seeing somebody being smeared, right?
No,
Any
you're right.
politician, any type of celebrity. And now, everyday people. I don't know if you remember what happened with the Covington kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're talking teenagers,
He had that
16-year-olds.
mega hat on. And,
Yeah, he had the hat on, and the news reported that they misreported him doing some doing some things that he didn't do, and then video came out that showed that
Exactly.
that it was completely false. But here's the thing: the news media they don't correct their stories, or if they do correct their stories, it's like a little sentence at the end of an article that was already posted and read. So they know that the damage is done. But my point here, Joe, is that it exemplifies that relational aggression is okay. The media kind of demonstrates that you can get away with it. And so people see that example, right? And they run with it too. And Joe, there's yet another layer that's making this even more of a problem nowadays. It's really the catalyst for it, and that is social media.
Sure.
So back in the day, if there was a negative false rumor about you, something like that, it might affect you at school, it might affect you at your workplace, right? It wouldn't go outside the bounds of your town, your small town, or if you live in a big city, it'd get lost kind of in all that noise. But nowadays with social media,
Goes viral.
It's viral, it's worldwide, it's instant, right? It affects every part of your life, right? I mean, so you can't escape it. So these are the factors that are contributing to relational aggression or indirect aggression being such a problem now in today's society. So
How do you deal with that?
well, first off, let's talk about like what relational aggression actually looks like in the workplace, because we just got pretty big picture there, Joe. We were talking about like the whole societal issues involved with relational aggression and all that. So in the workplace, what it looks like is gossiping, right? Employees innuendos, employees spreading rumors to hurt other employees. Again, it's hurting people through non-physical means. It's reporting things that are untrue to HR, that might get another employee fired. It's sabotaging, employees sabotaging each other. For example, if you have a team member could use some help in reaching a goal or something like that, or meeting a deadline, and you intentionally don't help them out, or a person doesn't help them out because they know it's gonna cause them problems.
Right.
That's relational aggression. Relational aggression at work is undermining. I've seen managers that they don't like a particular employee, so they overload that employee with work, or they give them assignments that they know the employee's not going to like, right? So that's relational aggression. Feedback, negative feedback. Negative feedback can be, if it's delivered the right way and it's pertinent to what's going on, it can be really useful. But I have seen folks in organizations use negative feedback, weaponize negative feedback, using criticism to humiliate people, destroy their self-esteem. These are all forms of relational aggression. Overall, Joe, what it looks like in the workplace is it creates a psychologically unsafe workspace where you don't feel comfortable working there. And psychological safety is another area of research that is growing wildly. And Joe, let me add in here, because we're talking about the workplace. Research on relational aggression has shown that it's more commonplace with women. So men have a tendency, when they express aggression, to be more direct and even physical about it. Women have a tendency to be indirect, right, and more relational.
Or behind your back type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, more using, verbal things like, words and relationships and manipulation and that kind of thing. And the reason why I bring it up is because more and more women are entering the workplace. More and more women are graduating from college and higher education institutions. As of now, it's up to about 60% of college graduates are women, right? So it just follows that in the workplace, in the professional workplace where you need a degree, there's going to be more and more women. Actually, it's going to become women dominated. So it follows from that relational aggression is going to become an increasing issue in the workplace. So that's what relational aggression looks like in the workplace.
It's another level of mean girls.
Yeah, it's the adult version. I don't want to say mature because there's nothing really. It's really a middle school mentality, right? But it's an adult manifestation.
Well, you made a good point. What happened? We have to take a break right now. But when we come back, I want to ask you a question about that. Okay?
Okay. Yeah,
we'll
sure.
be right back. Don't go away. It's good stuff. Well, welcome back to Coffee with Joe. I'm Joe Asumendi, your host, and my guest is Dr. Gary Dumais, who's a business psychologist. We were talking about relational aggression, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and it's kind of the mean girls spirited type of thing on a different level.
Yeah.
But one of the things I'm very interested in is, let's say, for instance, that's happened to me. I'm just, hypothetically, me or anybody. Okay, I'm in a workplace. Somehow I rub somebody wrong for whatever reason. Maybe they don't like the way I look. Maybe they don't like my clothes. Doesn't matter. They could literally start some kind of rumor mill about me that might not be true.
Yeah.
But before I know it, all of a sudden, people are looking at me a little different, maybe. And I'm taking, and all of a sudden, I feel uncomfortable. I don't know why.
Yeah.
And yet, somebody's actually behind the scenes doing this. Now, maybe, eventually this gets my manager. What's happening? So maybe that manager would call in one of my coworkers, and they could say something not necessarily true, but kind of an innuendo that puts something in his mind. So all of a sudden I say, hey, wait, I better keep an eye on this guy.
Yeah.
Right? So all of a sudden now I'm a victim of circumstance for doing nothing,
right,
but maybe just turning somebody the wrong way, or taking and making an impression on somebody that doesn't like me.
Right.
How do I deal with that?
So Joe, what's great about your example, right? It's a very common example, and there's some points about it that I just want to highlight. One is, you talked about how, number one, you didn't do anything, but number two, like, it was a little difficult to discern that something was amiss.
Right.
Right, and that's how it usually goes, right? You walk into work one day, everybody's smiling at you, and then you walk into work the next day, and people are looking at you funny. And you just kind of have this kind of sense. Now, at least, if you're attuned to it and you kind of can figure out, hey, people are looking at me a little bit funny, maybe something's going on here, you're already ahead of the game. And that's part of, what can help inoculate you from those sorts of things, is having that awareness. But a lot of folks, they don't even know that. They don't even know that these negative things are being said about them behind the scenes. So I'm glad that you brought it up. So before we talk about what you can do about it, though, you touched upon this in your example too. I do want to mention what the impact can be for relational aggression, not just to you as an employee, but to your company more broadly. Number one, higher turnover, right? So
sure.
you're coming into, in your example, you come into that situation and you're feeling, hey, I'm not welcome here. Something's amiss. I don't know what it is, but people are looking at me funny. I'm not gonna, I don't feel comfortable working here anymore. Number two, it's usually higher turnover with some of the best performers at work. So when it comes to relational aggression or indirect aggression, usually it's rooted in a sense of
Jealousy,
envy,
maybe?
jealousy, envy, and so people are usually envious of those folks who are doing the best at work. So these high performers get targeted, right? And so as a business owner, as a company, you end up losing some of your most effective people because
And you don't know why.
And you don't know why, and they don't know why either. So loss of high performing employees, poor team performance. There's a lot of psychological research out there about how to make teams more cohesive and more productive and all that. Well, if you got one bad apple or a couple bad apples, using relational aggression to undermine people, entire team suffers. Communication problems, lost innovation, creativity. For innovation and creativity to thrive, again, you have to have this kind of more psychologically safe type of workplace, and relational aggression gets in the way of that. Healthcare costs can increase. So again, going back to your example, right? If you start feeling the stress of relational aggression.
It's affecting my job now.
Yeah, it's affecting your job, but also, you leave work. you're still coming home from work, you're feeling the effects, right? To go back to that Mean Girl example of the boy that was targeted and how it changed his life, right? So you're probably going to the doctor more, and it's costing the company in healthcare and benefits. And let's not forget reports to HR, unfair terminations, improper investigations. All that, it's a nightmare for the HR and legal departments at companies too. So there's lots at stake, and there's huge impact in the workplace. So going back to your example of, what can be done about it? So as a business psychologist, I have some special tools that I can apply. If I were to describe the program in a nutshell, Joe, it really comes down to two things, and that is assessment and then action.
Okay.
Now, the assessment needs to take place at the individual employee level. I also do the assessment at the company level, at the organizational level, right? Because you have to, relational aggression, a key aspect of it is that it's covert, right? It's gossip, it's rumors, it's underhanded. And it's complex, and it's a people issue. That's why you have to bring in business psychologists to help out with it. So oftentimes what's underpinning a lot of it is personality issues, right? Imagine if you have somebody who has narcissistic personality traits or psychopathic personality traits. It's important to know that, to get to that as a root cause. And so that's why you'd want to bring in a business psychologist who can assess for that, see what's going on, again, at the individual employee level. So identify the problematic employees, assessing the problematic employees, but also the targets of the relational aggression, assessing them to see what strengths they have, how they can be more resilient in the workplace, teaching them ways to deal with relational aggression. So working with the individual employees, doing a thorough assessment, you got to understand what the problem is if you're going to be able to address it effectively. But then at the organizational level, you have to ask yourself the questions, what about this organizational environment, if anything, helps create or maintain this problem of relational aggression? Oftentimes in organizations, a lot of the behaviors that the employees do cascade down from senior leadership. So what an assessment looks like at that level is me getting together with senior leaders, building the rapport, building the trust, asking the right questions to get them to open up about
How do they
some
react
issues.
to that?
Well, if you position yourself as somebody who's helpful, they react quite well to it, right? And usually when companies contact me, they're having problems with relational aggression, or they're having problems related to relational aggression. They don't even know it's relational aggression, but there's, hey, Gary, we got an issue here, right? We're losing people, we're losing high performers, we're getting complaints to HR, can you help us out? So they're pretty open arms to that.
Okay.
And when I start talking about relational aggression and the whole Mean Girls thing, immediately people are like, oh, yep, we get it. Because it's happened to just about everybody, right? They get it. And again, they see it widespread. So they're pretty open to the idea because I'm helping them out, right?
Okay.
So assessment and action, individual assessment, assessment at the company level. And in both cases, what I'm doing is I'm facilitating insight into the problem. Funny thing about relational aggression, right, since it is so covert, when you shine a light on it and comes to the fore, the people who are doing the relational aggression, usually they do it for kind of social power and that kind of thing. If it's covert, it works and they can maintain that.
Right.
But the minute people, a light shed on it, and the minute people start to realize that, oh, hey, that's the person that spreads rumors about people, that's the person that tries to undermine folks, it turns against that person. All of a sudden, that person starts to get rejected by other people at work. They're identified as somebody who's problematic. So, again, my process involves insight, generating insight into what relational aggression is and who's perpetrating it and how to make the victims more resilient. Motivation, motivating people to take action again, to deal with it. Insight, motivation, skill building, helping people develop the skills, teaching them how to handle relational aggression. Real world practice, giving them exercises, help talking through real world instances at work to help them understand how to handle scenarios even more effectively. And then the last piece is accountability, putting an action plan together for both the organization and for individuals. Hey, here's the things that you're going to work on, here's the things that you're going to learn, here's the things that we're going to do in order to help you deal with the relational aggression in the workplace.
You know, Gary, I can't believe we're out of time.
Did we really run over already?
Yeah, this is such an important subject. And I want to have you back again because I really think we have only touched on the surface of this.
Yeah, sure.
There's so many more things to talk about.
Yeah.
But at this point of the show, I'd like you to look in that camera there and actually tell people how they can reach you and who should call you.
Okay, sure, yeah. Once again, my name is Dr. Gary Dumais. I'm a business psychologist specializing in assessment for selection. Most recently, I just helped a local company in Philadelphia choose their new CEO because their former CEO is retiring. If you want to reach me, please don't hesitate to call me directly, 215-901-4589, or you can find my company online. It's called Select Human Resources, and the web address is selecthumanresources.com, all one word.
Gary Dumais, thank you so much for joining me today. I apprate that.
Likewise, Joe.
Just a great analysis of something I never thought about, but I mean, now I'm going to be more careful. So I won't be sleeping tonight anyhow. But thank you so much, and I'm going to have you back again because I really want to talk about this at more length, okay?
I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. And thank you, folks, for joining me on Coffee with Joe. I'm Joe Asumendi, your host, and we'll see you next week, and have a very, very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.